It's really strong. Waiting at sea all day to catch a tuna. When I thought it wasn't worth it, I didn't know the fish was so big. It sold for $16,000. Good heavens. That's $100,000 a day. Is sea fishing so easy to earn? It was past 5 in the morning. Ralph and they came to the harbor. They believe in the early days of the bird getting the worm. So get your fishing rod ready today before dawn. They haven't caught any fish lately. Fishing season ends in 2 weeks. They took advantage of the last moment. Try to catch more fish. Now they're too anxious to sleep. They're desperate to end the season with a big catch. The same is true of Bill. They haven't caught any fish for days. I've been working with Paul for 2 weeks. Not a single fish was caught. They also set out to fish before dawn. Paul decided to take them fishing at a secret location today. It's the same position he's been using. Paul is a trader. He had been fishing with David's team for 12 years. He told Bill the secret location today, which means you've sold out David. Upon arrival at the destination, first drop the anchor to secure the boat. David's side also came to the fishing position early. He had guessed that Paul would tell Bill where he was fishing. As the season gets closer, there are fewer fish here too. David took out his lucky fishing rod. Hoped to catch a big fish before the season is over. At the last stage, the competition between fishing boats is acrimonious. Bill thinks David knows Paul well enough. You know what Paul's going to do. Bill contacted David on the walkie-talkie, but David didn't want to talk to Bill. Paul has been with Bill for 2 weeks. He was desperate to catch a fish and prove himself. Now he and David are like enemies. Dave and his boys are getting ready to sail. They caught tuna the last 2 weeks, so there's no need to worry at all. Fill it all up before you go out to sea. I hope today is a good day. Ralph finally got a fish on his side. Only they caught cod. While waiting for the tuna, they need to catch some live bait. Catch and use now to save costs. Ralph thinks we should focus on tuna fishing, not some live bait. There was some disagreement between him and his teammates. It was clear that Ralph was too anxious. Everybody wants to catch tuna. Bill, they have money. Bait is bought by the plate. They came to David's secret fishing spot. Paul is very angry now. He misses a fish very much. Paul found a lot of fishing boats around here. It made him very strange. Bill thought he had been cheated. He can't quite believe there's a big fish here. Nearby fishing boats were closing in on them. This made them feel very dissatisfied. Teammate Gagun yelled at them to leave. I think Team Bill is a boatload of robbers. See someone else fish and pray for them to fail. Making fun of other crew members when they're bored. Now he's even more outspoken. But people don't want to talk to them. David also noticed a lot of boats nearby. Actually, see fishing tuna oil. Some boats are recorded for the program. There are also many fishing boats. David shouted back at them, but the other side didn't pay any attention. That's a pretty close distance. No doubt it will give them a lot of competition. They're taking David's mark. He had to go up and argue with him. After hours of theorizing, the other side finally chose to leave here. Dave started fishing on his side. Catch a handful of seaweed and put it on your head. This look won't kill any of the girls on the street. Bill's been waiting a long time, but no fish ever took the bait. While Paul was preparing the bait, I suddenly noticed a fish bite, but it didn't hang. Got them excited for a second. He hurriedly installed the new bait. His teammates didn't really believe what he said. Paul is telling them the story with the hook. Bill hoped Paul would find a better fishing position, or we'll have to give him up. Ralph's team has been fishing. There's enough cod to excite him. To see a teammate like that, Ralph had to let him play by himself. The fishing line was tangled in the water. It's obvious that this teammate is not very smart. Once the fishing lines are tangled together, that's basically scrap. Ralph is rearranging the line. His teammates looked on stupidly. Maybe the only way to get over it is to push a teammate off and feed him to a shark. Had to sail home. Come back tomorrow. Back in port, he went to the fish shop, went buying fishing line, and hit on a bunch of proprietors. The two talked very happily. Finally, I earned another kiss before I left. It was past 5 o'clock in the morning. David and Sandro were reunited. They prepared bait. I went fishing early this morning, hoping to catch another tuna. After Paul left, David has no choice but to trust Sandro. Wait until the sun comes up. Ralph and his crew are out at sea. There were no fish late in the season. Make them very irritable. I guess the faster it gets, the messier it gets. They really want the tuna. They can't get fish. What is not available is often in turmoil. They are not the only ones worried. And Team Bill, the season will be over soon. They all want to bring home a tuna. 4 or 5 fishing boats were competing nearby. It's like a wolf with more meat and less meat. David and his crew are constantly changing their fishing spots, looking for a feng shui treasure. Bring up the anchor and leave. Bill, they're keeping an eye on David, and they're ready to follow. Take the anchor and go with David. This high guy is real, determined to compete with David. I'm sure David's side is speechless too. Why is there a dog following you all the time? When David found the fishing spot, dropped the anchor, and Bill and the others came here. This is what Paul said to David. I've heard it like 10 times. This high guy is unbeatable. They started fishing at the same time. Bill flirted with David from time to time with his walkie-talkie, but David didn't want to talk to them. That's the sound of the probe. It's clear the tuna has come. David immediately calls his partner to start the bait. This is a critical time, whether you can catch tuna. It all depends on who's lucky. Bill and his team are competing here. Paul wished very much that David could see them serve the fish. The distance between them is very close. Tuna are drawn away from each other at any moment. It's just a matter of who has the better bait. Suddenly the line began to be yanked. Paul's fishing rod is already loaded. The fish is half the battle. Pulling it to the surface is a victory. They waited 2 weeks for the fish. David also noticed that his partner had already served fish. I haven't caught it yet, but enough to make them die of envy. Bill, they're already celebrating. I would literally die laughing if I did. Bill's team is the last one I want to see fish on, but the plot is often so angry. Paul managed to pull the fish to the surface. Bill always controls the boat with Paul. The fishing is very intense here. Follow your team in the harpoon. They succeeded in getting a tuna. This fish is very big. Can catch this fish. They'll be relieved the season is over. This fish is enough to cover the cost of the first 2 weeks. There is no doubt that today's victory is theirs. Jealousy belongs to David and his family. Paul waited 2 weeks. Finally, a tuna to prove itself. This tuna doesn't come easy. It all depends on who has thick skin. If they hadn't followed David here, I think this fish belongs to David and his family. A fish between 2 boats. There's a 50% chance of anyone getting on the fish. This tuna is very big. They immediately returned to Hong Kong to sell fish. The David team that stayed here is really jealous. The chances of getting fish in the same place in succession are low, so they decided to leave. David was very upset about it, but there's no way. Sometimes the sun shines on your ass. This is life. I'm in a shit mood today. Ralph and his crew spent a day at sea. There are a lot of seagulls around. There are almost no fish in this situation. Ralph keeps an eye on the detector. It shows a lot of mackerel. These things are tuna food. It's likely to attract tuna. Suddenly the rod was yanked. Get that fishing line right next to it. But the surprise didn't last long. The tuna was soon unhooked. They just lost the tuna. Yesterday, my teammate accidentally screwed up the fishing line. Fishing unhooked it again today. Go on like this. Ralph would really thank you. If I were Ralph, this stupid teammate is probably out in the ocean. Ralph is constantly teasing this teammate. If I hadn't taken him out fishing, maybe he's still in the trash looking for fast food. The weather suddenly turned very bad. Ralph's temper also became violent. Dave and they didn't go fishing today. Others collect antiques and stamps. But he likes to collect tuna tails. This tuna is his record too. There's about 100 tuna here. The average tuna is $8,000. You can figure out how much it costs. Bill and they finally returned to port. Today is a fruitful day. Bill hopes it will fetch a good price. Bill's wife was so happy she was flying. Finally a tuna. They sell the fish to a buyer. The fish is very big. Everyone waits for the price of the fish. After all, one fish can pay for food for months. The fish weighed 503 pounds. Belongs to the fish of their dreams. Bill's wife gave Bill the approval. Everyone took pictures around the tuna. They're the ones having the most fun today. The fish is 2.4 meters long. The color of the fish is very beautiful. The meat is not cloudy or brown. It's a very high-quality tuna. Fish is also very high in fat. The buyer offered $15 a pound. They received a price of $7,500 for the fish. Take out the $1,000 cost. They have $6,500 of profit left. 3 people could each get more than $2,000. That's a pretty good profit. This morning, Ralph came to the port alone. The Han team from yesterday didn't show up today because he got fired. Ralph thought he looked like a fool on the boat. It doesn't help if you don't catch the fish. Han's team is now very upset with Ralph. Throw things at him when you get angry. I feel very bored without work. Weiter morning. He came to the harbor and waited. He hoped Ralph would still ask him to go fishing. But Ralph didn't want him on the boat. There's no way this job's gonna happen. Well, that's just bad luck opening the fucking door and getting home. There's 1 week left in the fishing season. Every captain wants to catch another tuna because it's about whether they have enough to eat for the new year. So it's definitely going to be a very competitive week. Dave went fishing after 7 o'clock in the morning. The temperature is getting lower and lower now. He planned to head south to go fishing. There are quotas for fishing, but with our current luck, making the quota is a bonanza. Overfishing is simply not achievable. Jay caught a lot of mackerel. This is tuna's favorite bait. You can fish more when you have time. This can lead to significant cost savings. They usually fish with live bait. Dave needs tuna to pay his daughter's tuition next year. Don't talk about being poor when you catch so many fish. David also said he had a lot of pressure. There are fewer and fewer tuna around, and increasingly competitive. In the end, it was Paul the trader. Give Bill the location, and with Bill against themselves. David is very confident about the challenge of the final week. Bill and the others came to the fishing spot. They were very excited to catch fish yesterday. Today is full of confidence. The detector showed lots of fish nearby. Suddenly, Paul thought he could do it again. This high guy is really gross. A regular backstabber. But Bill approved of him. Ralph goes fishing alone. He has abandoned his foolish teammate. I could do a lot of things fishing alone, but if I can catch a fish, then it's all yours. He's enjoying himself. Anyway, if you don't catch any fish, it's no use bringing as many teammates as you can. Dave over here. Teammate Jay was crying when he dropped the bait. No fish for a week. 2 buckets of bait a day, and no response. This isn't for fishing. It's like feeding the fish. Dave wiped the fishing line with a towel. An oil deposit was found. He suspects it has something to do with the temperature of the water. Tuna don't like these conditions. Looks like we're going to have to switch places. Bill, and they came to the fishing spot. Paul hooked the bait with a fishing hook. They used different lures to fish. Tuna eat whatever they like. We have a tuna sighting at 100 meters. With any luck, I think it'll draw it up. All you have to do is bait. Soon the rod began to be yanked. Paul's rod catches the fish again. The tuna goes under the boat. Bill had to turn the ship around. If we decouple at this point, we'll be pissed off. The fishing line was hung from another fishing rod. Teammates have to work together to clean it up. The main thing now is to exhaust the fish. Bill is constantly adjusting the direction of the ship. All it takes is one little mistake, are likely to cause the tuna to unhook. Teammates keep tightening the line. When the fish surface, Paul stands by with a harpoon. Now the tuna is under the ship. Paul picked his moment. The tuna was successfully contained. Teammates shouted excitedly. It's only been 2 days since the last fish. It was a clean sweep for them. Bill immediately contacted Ralph to brag. David was nearby listening, heard Paul say bad things about him. Ralph was very upset when he heard people serving fish. He was also very eager to catch a fish. It's been a week with no harvest. If you can't catch a fish, I'm going to get laughed out of my stupid team. Think to yourself, bring me fish. Even a mermaid. Dave calls David on the intercom. This is really idle boredom, looking for someone to blow water. But he hung up after a short chat. Because we're all competitors. There's no honesty at all. Anyone wants to catch the last fish of the season. They waited at sea for a day. No gain at all. We'll have to come back tomorrow. But Bill and his men are the real winners. They caught a tuna. It's not very big though, but it's enough for them to make some money. They bleed the tuna to cool it down, so that the fish won't be burned by the hot blood. Can sell for a better price. Bill and they were able to bring things to a happy end. Today the fish is only about 290 pounds. A total haul of $4,000. Paul was as excited as a high. The continuous fishing gives them great confidence. Bill's wife is very fond of Paul too. If it wasn't for my husband, I think I'm going to give him a massage tonight. Early the next morning, David set out again to go fishing. We don't have a few days left. They have to fight for tuna. I saw Bill and the fish in succession. This makes my mood very upset. Every day we go out before dawn. The fish didn't catch. We're losing $500 a day on gas. Only catch more fish. To ensure a happy winter. Jay also wants more money to marry a wife. Every day at sea turned him into a high. Dave didn't go out to sea until after 7 o'clock today. He wasted 2 hours less than David. It's a waste of time if you can't catch a fish anyway. Dave's trying to catch fish before the end of the season. He and his daughter have not seen each other for a month. Want to go home early and rest. David was at sea for a few hours, but there was no hook. The situation is truly distressing. The waves are bigger now, and a light rain began to fall. It was a blow, no doubt. The bait keeps dropping, and there's no response. A lot of seabirds around is not a good thing. If you can get the tuna captain at the end of the season, you can sell the fish for a higher price. That's what every captain thinks. Dave, there's a lot of seabirds out here. These seabirds affect their fishing to some extent. Seabirds ate the bait as soon as it was dropped. This is a very helpless thing. Dave had to scare them off with cannon fire. The same goes for Ralph. You can't scare them away by shouting. It's so boring fishing on a boat all by yourself. Seeing them go so long without any fish. I talk longer and I get bored. The weather began to get cold. We're almost done with the bait. The fish situation is bad right now. They decided to pull up the anchor and go home. Before the season is over, Dave wouldn't give up fishing. He's going to fight until the last minute. There is no other choice. If I catch a fish, he ended the season early. Dave plans to try his luck at the bay tomorrow. Today was another fruitless day. Morning of the 3rd day, they set out to fish again. Time is chipping away at their confidence. Although time is running out, but they didn't show any passion, did they? In the final stretch, everyone has their own plan. Fortunately, the weather is not bad today. We still have confidence. At the end of the fishing season, these tuna usually sell for a very high price. $20 to $30 a pound. Today they come to the site of the biggest tuna ever caught. The fish weighed 850 pounds. The detector went off as soon as we got here. There are tuna in the water. As long as he's here, there's a good chance of catching it. Dave is ready to go wild fishing. Ralph has been alone at sea all day. When he's bored, It was beautiful to see the sunset in the distance. Suddenly the line was yanked. He needs to tighten the rod as he adjusts the boat. Even with 3 heads and 6 arms, I feel so busy that I want to fly. It's a good thing Ralph has a lot of fishing experience. He slowly controlled the rhythm. My arm's already sore. But to think there could be a $5,000 fish down there. He was instantly motivated again. Soon the tuna is brought to the surface. But that's not enough. The tuna must be exhausted. Ralph takes out his harpoon and hits the tuna. One man managed to keep the fish under control and tie the fish's tail with a noose. He had never felt at ease until that moment. Ralph accomplished the feat of hunting tuna alone. David and Dave are night fishing tonight. They fight for the last minute. This process is tiring, but to make money for the winter, they have to. Suddenly the line was yanked. Dave's got a fish in his ass. I waited all day for this tuna. Dave prayed it was a big fish. Under one operation, the fish was successfully contained. It doesn't look very big, but at least I can break even. Dave guessed it would be $7,000. Jay said it was a giant Atlantic bluefin tuna. They used a crane to put it up. Oh my God, is this head so big? The two were grinning from ear to ear. Dave, contact David. Told him about the tuna he caught. David is the only one left to lose. Ralph sells his tuna when he returns to port. The fish weighed 410 pounds. It sold for $8,300. Just over $6,000 after costs. This is a huge profit for Ralph. You don't have to give half to Han's team. Today this fish is for Ralph. A perfect end to the season for sure. Dave and his men returned to port. I waited a week to finally open. Dave is a very good fish too. He ended up with $16,000. Subtract the cost of $1,500 and make $14,500. This is probably the most expensive tuna I've ever seen. Good guy makes 110 grand a day. That's one a day. Estimated monthly income of several million. Everyone has something to gain. Only David was disappointed yesterday. They were at sea all night. Suddenly the detector made a noise. This tuna appeared nearby. Soon the line was yanked. The fish waited all night and finally took the bait. David shouted excitedly. He and Jay worked together. In the most important moment, you must not panic. Soon the tuna is pulled out of the water. David took the harpoon and attacked, but it didn't hit. I had to look for another chance. It took a few struggles. Finally got this tuna under control. It's been a long time and it's finally paid off. The episode was undoubtedly a happy one for all. All the teams caught a tuna in the final stage. David guessed that the fish would sell for $10,000. It was pretty big. When they got the fish up, the fish weighed a staggering 1,030 pounds. The final haul was $15,250. This season they have reaped close to $90,000. That's a lot to make in a few months. There have been many incidents this season, but the ending is always satisfactory. They caught a lot of big fish. Look forward to the surprises they bring us next season.